Woodward Stadium in Cheney, Washington, as the Eastern Washington Eagles get set to take the field. Our live Big Sky Conference Game of the Week coming your way from Eastern Washington. And the Eagles, under their head coach Mike Kramer, are off to their best start since 1992. A 3-1 mark for Eastern, and they hope to extend a winning streak against the Montana State Bobcats today. One of the reasons Eastern's gotten off to a great start, two talented running backs, Joe Sewell and Rex Prescott. They'll be running behind Jim Buzzard, the junior right guard, a very talented lineman, very strong and very quick, and Eastern feels he's the latest in a long line of offensive linemen who have made it to the NFL. Cliff Heisel brings the Montana State Bobcats into Cheney today, looking for his first victory in 6 outings against the Eastern Eagles. And when you talk about a running game, well, that's the bread and butter of Montana State's attack. One of the big reasons is their senior running back. He runs behind a talented offensive line and is second in the Big Sky Conference in rushing, with better than 5.5 yards per carry for the Bobcats this season. Montana State coming off a big victory over Idaho State last week. They hope to keep some momentum as they take on Eastern Washington today. The Bobcats and the Eagles getting set to square off. It comes your way from Cheney next on Prime Sports. Back to Cheney, we're just about ready to get things started between Montana State and Eastern Washington. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Pickett. Welcome to our live Big Sky Game of the Week. Don Reed alongside once again. This Eastern Washington team, a lot of players who were green a year ago. They got that season under their belt, hit the weight room. They're a much improved team, Don.
Boy, they really are, Todd. This is a better Eastern football team. They're 3-1, as good a start as they've had in a long time. Very physical football team that's going to get better. They're young.
And you know this Bobcat team, you know what they're going to do when they come out on the field.
They're going to get after you. They like to run the football, and they like to run the football right up the middle.
Two teams that are really going to try to stay in the race. The winner stays right in the hunt today. We're ready for the opening kickoff, so let's head down to the field. The Eagles and the Bobcats set to square things off here in the Big Sky Game of the Week. There is a look at Mike Kramer, the head coach for the Eastern Eagles, in his 3rd season. A 10-16 mark, but Don, you know, they're a squib field goal by Weber State away from being undefeated right now at 4-0. He's gotten them off to a great start this season.
He truly has. This is going to be a great football game. Two well-matched teams, both physical, rough, tough style of football. It's going to be fun to watch.
Now, Eastern won the coin toss and elected to defer till the second half, so the Eagles will be kicking off. As we said, Eastern's loss in the season opener at Weber State on a late field goal, 22-20. Then they defeated former Big Sky member Boise State, a big victory over Southwest Texas, and last week a 24-7 victory over the Portland State Vikings. Eagles set to kick things off. Josh Atwood to kick it off, and immediately sends it out of bounds. The Bobcats not getting a chance for a return, and will get things started at the Montana State 35-yard line. One other part of our story to really watch for today. It may be baseball playoff time, Don, but both these coaches could go to their bullpens early with some backup help at quarterback.
Well, that's really true. You know, up to yesterday, Coach Heisel was figuring on starting Jeff Tuss, and changed his mind going into today's game to Rob Thompson. And the point being, both teams are not sure their quarterback as of yet. Look for 4 quarterbacks to play today, Todd.
Now, both these quarterbacks, Compson and Tuss, have had the starting job at various times over the last couple seasons. Compson started the first 2 this year. Tuss started last week, sat out 1 series when he was shaken up, and then came back in. So both are experienced, but Don, neither one stepped up and taken over the position.
And that's what Coach Heisel's looking for.
Long count on the first play, and Engel King on play number 1. And immediately picks up great yardage all the way out above the 40-yard line. We take a look at the starters for Montana State today. Engel King at the tailback with Travis Cormany, Marcus Bragg, Kenyatta Morgan, a dangerous threat at the split end position, and Chad Mayer, a second-team All-Big Sky a year ago at tight end. The front line, Brandlin, O'Brien, Callan, Wilson, and Wilkins across the front. Engel King, right off the bat, picks up 8 on the first rushing play.
Well, typical Engel King to me.
Bobcats flex it a little bit. Engel King again with some lead blockers. Eastern doing a pretty good job in a ground game. He'll pick up the first down as we take a look at the Eagle defense now. Across the front, Madsen, Scott, Caldwell, and Harris for the Eagles. good crew of linebackers. They're thin, so if these guys get banged, they may be hurt, but all three are very talented, including Stry, their tackle leader. And across the back, much better play from their secondary this season. Moore, Woods, Perigo, and Kelly providing some leadership from the secondary position.
First.
Engelking getting the first. That's Morgan to the top of your screen. Thompson looking for Morgan. Good close on him. He'll pick up short yardage as DePrice Kelly, the right cornerback, closed quickly to limit that play. And there's a look at Kenyatta Morgan. Don, he's a big threat, but so far this season, just 3 catches for 8 yards.
Well, I think what's going to happen as the season goes on, he's going to be their big guy to go to because he's a returner too, quick feet, he can break away, and that was a nice throw, nice catch.
Kelly did a nice job of closing quickly too. That's with that Eastern secondary. You can tell the experience that they have has made a difference.
You bet. They're much improved over a year ago.
They'll call it a gain of 3. Chip Hobbs at the bottom of your screen this time, coming in the wide receiver spot. Tony Baez in the slot. Engelking on the draw. Looked like he lost his balance a bit trying to cut back, Don.
He did on that painted surface in the middle of the field. And it was interesting the formation that Montana State ran that draw out of. They were in a double slot to their offensive right, spreading the field. Not a usual formation for Montana State.
Don, you've had to prepare for this young man. What makes him an outstanding running back?
He's hard to tackle. He makes the first guy miss, and I don't know. He's not a big kid, about 178 pounds, but he's elusive, and yet he's physical too. An interesting question you ask, and a hard one to answer, except he's a quality back.
3rd and about 4 for the Bobcats. Some pressure on Thompson. Stry missing him, but he'll be brought down from behind. Stry had the first shot at him, and then Jared Jeske, the strong side linebacker, made the stop, a freshman from Spangle.
They were trying to go deep, as you saw there, Ty, they were trying to go deep, and the pressure got to him. Here it is, here's the replay.
Jeske making the tackle from behind, but they shot Stry right up the middle on the delay, and the Bobcats will be forced to punt. Mark Bragg, a starting flanker, will be the punter. Back deep for Eastern is Maurice Perigo. He'll signal for the fair catch and takes it at about the 13-yard line where the Eastern Eagles will get started. And Don, it's much the same thing on the Eastern side of the ball. Harry Leons has been the starter, but they've got somebody ready if he can't pull the trigger.
Well, they really do, and it's going to depend, in my opinion, today, Todd, and whether they want to run the ball, which is their first thing to do, or throw the ball. And I think if they're running the ball, they'll go that way. However, if they want to really put the ball in the air and play the kind of football that you might want to play when you're playing catch-up or big third down, they may change quarterbacks.
There's a look at Harry Leons, guy who head coach Mike Kramer says is up and down. He can be real hot or he can be real cold. He's a streaky type quarterback, and the Eagles, of course, hope that hot is the mode he's in today. Antoine Miller, the man in motion, as the Eagles try to open with a pass. Leon scrambling will get a little beyond the line of scrimmage, but not further before he's brought down by the Montana State defense. And here's a look at the Eastern offensive starters. Joe Sewell, the senior from Centralia, Washington, at the tailback. Jackson at the flanker, Miller and Correa round out the receiver corps, and redshirt freshman Tyson Knavelsrud is at the tight end position. His brother is at the right tackle, his twin brother, that is. The rest of the front line, Barfield, Wachnick, Peterson, and Buzzard, the young man we talked about off the top of our telecast. Call it a gain of 2 for Leons on that scramble, and now we'll see Joe Sewell for the first time with a big hole off the right side.
He's a fine running back, too. We talked about him in the early part of the show. I'll tell you what, Todd, that kid can get 100 yards on a bad day.
Here's a look at the Montana State defensive front. 2 very good, experienced defensive ends in Smith and Devlin Geddes. Sawicki and O'Connor, the tackles. Harris, Kevin Lundstrom, who made a couple of big plays last week against Idaho State, and Jeff Alexander are the backers. Lucero, Matthews, Tucker, and Turner in the defensive secondary. Sewell taking it out just short of first down yardage. That's Jeff Ogden in motion, and on 3rd and 1, Sewell with a nice cut outside. He'll pick up the first down and a little bit more. Good open field tackle that time for the Bobcats. Tyson Tucker, the free safety, and Scott Matthews, the strong safety combined. But Sewell just slid that one outside, Don.
Boy, again, that quickness he has. He's not a blazer, but he is quick. The other thing I noticed, Montana State tightened up the formation. I think they thought something was going to happen inside, and he broke to the outside, made the play go.
We mentioned Matt Engelking second in the conference in rushing. Joe Sewell right behind him. He's third with an average of a little over 101 yards a game. That puts him 28th in the country. First down for the Eagles at their 25. Little tip, but still grabbed there. Looked as though somebody got a piece of that at the line. Steve Correa, the receiver, will be very close to first down yardage once again, just short by the eyeball from here.
Todd, I believe that was an audible call on the line of scrimmage. Both corners played well off the receivers, and the quarterback checked, I'm sure. Leon checked to the wideout on that quick throw.
That's one thing Mike Kramer says about Harry Leon. Says he's a very intelligent quarterback. That's probably the strongest part of his game.
That's right.
Able to make the reads, good at throwing on the run. Not a real long threat. Doesn't have a lot of zip on the ball. Sewell on second and short will pick up the first down. Again, the secondary having to come over and make the stops.
And Montana State lining up with a 4-down lineman and 2 outside linebackers. So literally they're in a 6-man front, and Eastern right now are moving those people around.
Don, one of the keys to the Eagles' success as we watch Sewell again is what they call area blocking.
They do. At the point of attack, most of their offense, they're blocking not necessarily people, but a certain place at line of scrimmage, and the back finds that soft spot and goes.
Spotted at the 43-yard line as Leons brings the Eagles up once again. 2 wide receiver set this time. Eagles will use a lot of 3-man, bring the tight end out sometimes. Fake to Sewell, wide open once again is Steve Correa, and he'll pick up another first down for Eastern. That ball didn't look too bad, Don.
No, he threw the ball very well, and of course they caught Montana State in a man cover situation, nice throw and a nice catch.
Montana State territory at the 45, where it's first down Eagle.
Nice confidence builder for a quarterback, too. Just a quick drop, and you've got an open receiver to hit like that.
You bet. And it looks to me like Eastern's really working on all cylinders right now.
Correa, a very quick wide receiver to go with Gerald Jackson. Correa is a transfer from Fullerton Community College. And another first down for Eastern. Sewell. And we see the Montana State front getting involved for the first time, and coming up to stop him, who else? Devlin Geddes, second team All-Big Sky performer a year ago, and a player that Cliff Eisel's very, very high on.
Yes, he's a fine player. Todd, you know, Eastern did a great job along the line of scrimmage all the way down, with the exception of Geddes, who made the play. They really did move the line of scrimmage.
It's a good individual effort by Geddes, and Sewell stopped for no gain. The Eagles looking sharp on their opening drive. Correa to the bottom of your screen, and Gerald Jackson slotted inside. Looking long this time, under some pressure and room for Leons to run. Drops the ball. Is it in or out? Which way? Let's see which way they're going to call the spot.
Leons kept the ball.
He lost the loaf of bread. A little conference. Did he step out of bounds first? The officials conferring over on the far side, and we're waiting for a signal.
Again, Montana State, Todd, in man cover, and they're trying to get the ball deep.
The 36-yard line.
It's apparently stepping out of bounds. Let's take a look at it, Don, see if we can see whether he went out of bounds or the ball did.
Morgan Harrison, top for the Bobcats.
Trying to stretch it for a first down, and I guess that, yeah, the ball carried out. Lucky break here for Leons, huh?
Certainly was. Big first down for Eastern.
Well, they'll mark it 3rd and short. And I know Mike Kramer's probably having apoplexy, though, watching his quarterback run with the ball that way.
Yeah, with the ball out in front of him like that.
Correa in motion. Sewell. Nice thing with that delay that you can see already, Don, is that it gives him time to find the hole, lets the line do the work.
Yeah, they're pulling the backside, of course, as they do in that counter play, but he cut back inside, actually ran about right over the center with that play, but he's a fine back. He finds a place to run.
Young man in his 6th year of football. They didn't think they'd get him back, but 2 knee injuries and a petition allowed him to come back, and I know Mike Kramer's happy to have him with those numbers. This will be the 10th play of the drive now for the Eagles. They come out with the 3 wideouts. Miller, the man in motion. Sewell again cutting. Good job that time, coming around the backside by the linebacker Morgan Harris. Played off the block and was able to pursue Sewell and bring him down.
He certainly did, but again, Eastern using that counter very effectively. When you look at what's happening up front, very effectively.
Leon's getting the play from Jeff Ogden as Mike Kramer shuttles his wide receivers. Miller, the motion man. Ogden at the top of the screen. And they're looking underneath now for Miller. Inside the 20, and another first down for Eastern. Ball loose and taken away by Montana State. They picked it off of him. Tyson Tucker comes out of the pack with the ball, and a big turnover to stop an Eastern drive, and that might have been the only way to stop this one, Don.
Boy, they had a drive going, and it looked like another big first down.
That's just a big individual play.
He literally took it away from him. Great play by Tucker.
Popped it loose, stripped it, came up with it all in one move, and forces a major turnover as Eastern was getting inside the red zone. Tyson Tucker, a junior from Arley, Montana, all academic. Well, he's smart enough to make that play, so he forces a big break there as Eastern's opening drive is finally stopped. See what Compson and his unit can do after the turnover. Engel King, big hold of the left side. Stride, the middle linebacker, leads the pursuit for Eastern.
Well, we're seeing that ground game on both sides of the ball very effectively being used.
Yeah, you look at the two-back set for Montana State here, Don, and you wonder, well, okay, who's it going to go to? Well, if you look at the stats, Engel King has 60 carries this season. Travis Cormany, the other back, when they're in the two-back set, has 1.
Yes.
I think that kind of sets it up right there. And they give to Engel King once again. Cormany was lined up on a wing left to provide some additional blocking. Engel King looks as though he's picked up the first down. And he has, as we get the signal from our referee, John Keys. The rest of our officiating crew today, Pink Evans is the head linesman, Mike Nelson, the field judge, Richard Hall, the umpire, Ren Edwards, the line judge, and Richard Ball, the back judge.
It's interesting how Montana State and Eastern's operating with their offenses today. Todd, they're substituting personnel to get the plays in rather than signal. Both teams doing the same thing.
That's because too many of the coaches know one another between these two staffs.
That may well be.
Right?
That may well be.
They know each other inside and out. From the 28, Engel King met fairly solidly, then bounces off the first wave, and again will pick up good yardage.
What Eastern's doing right now, Todd, is they're playing that 4-man front, but they've got their linebackers backed off, trying to read and scrape King on Engel King.
There a look at Mike Kramer over on the Eastern sidelines. As we said, has his team off to a 3-1 start. Biggest difference, he said, well, we had to play these kids a year ago, and we didn't want to. We wanted to have them get some experience, learn the program, learn the philosophy, but they've got it under their belts now.
And that they did, and they've shown it by the improvement they've made already in these first 4 ball games.
A short dive off the left side that time for Engel King.
Let
it loose, Tom.
And we talked a little bit about the experience of Eastern. Don, look at this big change. 60 points a game and over 600 yards the final 3 games last year, and great numbers in the first 4 games so far this season.
That is truly amazing.
On a per-game basis last year, the Eagles gave up over 472 yards a game. That was for the entire season. So you can see they've really cut it down. Did a great job last week, just 139 yards given up to Portland State. And on the scramble, Compson had to really just sort of waste that pass as he threw it away. Good pressure by the Eastern front, and his intended receiver, Travis Wright, was covered.
Eastern rushes 6 people here in this play, and they really get to him, make him throw early.
You see Perigo, if the ball had been thrown accurately, Perigo was gone for 6 the other direction.
That's what it looked like.
As he stepped in. The Eagles don't blitz much, but so far in both the blitz situations, they've been able to put a lot of pressure on Thompson.
Yes, they have.
Bragg set to kick. Perigo from his 27. Finally gets knocked to the seat of his pants out over the 40-yard line. A good run back for the Eagles. And Eastern, which had a long drive, stopped by the turnover, will have it once again. 3:48 to play in our first quarter. No score from Cheney. Against SC, it's 7-0 in favor of Cal. We'll keep you posted on that and a lot of other games around the country today on our Big Sky telecast. Some of the Bobcat fans making the trip over to Cheney today. They were real excited about that big victory they got a week ago over nationally ranked Idaho State. Cliff Heisel's team making some big plays down the stretch.
Oh, what a great win that was.
Back to action, the Eagles at their own 41. And Sewell. Ball loose again. Still loose, and Sewell's going to wind up falling on his own fumble finally. And a great play by Neil Smith, who punched the ball away from Joe Sewell. It'll be a big loss by the time they finally fall on it, Don.
It sure was a big loss. And what's going to happen now, of course, is going to force Eastern to throw the football. We'll see how successful they are doing that.
Smith made a great job just coming off his block there, Don, didn't he?
He sure did. Well, he's a fine defensive end. I'll tell you, probably as good as anybody in this league.
Couple scrambles. Sewell finally falls on it and call it a loss of 13 all the way back to the 28. You see Sewell on the sideline now. Eagles with a 2-back look showing. Mike McKenzie and Rex Prescott in. They'll help block, and now they'll flip to McKenzie. And again, a confidence-building pass right there for Harry Leon.
Well, yes, it was a well-executed screenplay. The problem is they had 20-plus yards to go, and so they've got to come back again and throw the football and try to get a first down.
That picks up about 13 of them back, but it'll be a 3rd down now and 15 for the Eagles from their own 36. Knabelsrud coming back in now as a tight end. He brings the play to Leon's. And the Eagles will send Correa to the bottom of the screen. Miller is in the slot. 3rd man Gerald Jackson up to the top of your screen. Leon squirting free, put the ball away this time, Harry. They're screaming from the sideline. He'll be stopped just short of the first down, and Montana State was trying to signal they'd have the ball again. Leon's appears to be shaken up, though, right out at midfield.
That was a nice scramble, though, Todd. Very, very nice scramble. Finds a hole right in the middle of the field. Cuts back to the sideline. He's got to put that ball away, though. He'll have trouble that fumble if he doesn't.
Take one more look as Jared Lucero and Jeff Alexander made the stop for Montana State. Didn't see anything give particularly as he started to plant and cut. While they attend to Harry Leon's, we'll take a timeout in Cheney. 2:03 to play in our first quarter. No score between Montana State and Eastern Washington on the Big Sky Game of the Week. And we welcome you back to Cheney. As you see, Eastern quarterback Harry Leon's being helped to his feet. A little wobbly on the knee, but able to head off under his own power. Griffin Garski warming up on the sidelines. Freshman from Meade High School. Sorry,
excuse me, John. That's a good sign that kid can get up and walk off like that. He'll be back, I'm sure.
Eagles coming out in punt formation on 4th and short at midfield. Tom Zerflew, a junior from Eatonville, Washington, back to punt. Omar Turner back deep for Montana State. Zerflew has struggled a little bit so far this season, but hoists a beautiful high kick here. Turner running the bluff, and it will go into the end zone just on the fly. So that wasn't a bad looking punt at all. 51 yards for Zerflew, and we have another timeout. 1:35 to play in our first quarter. Montana State is visiting Eastern Washington. We have a scoreless tie so far as the Big Sky Conference Game of the Week comes your way on Prime Sports. And welcome back to Cheney, Washington, as the Montana State Bobcats offensive unit heads back out onto the field. So far, they've just not been able to generate a lot beyond the rushing of Engelking. If they get into a 3rd down spot, you see our numbers so far in the first quarter. Angle King once again through the left side and met after a gain of about 5. Aaron Woods coming up from the strong safety position to lead the tacklers that time for Eastern Washington, along with Jared Jeske, the strong side or inside linebacker, as the Eagles call him.
Again, I point to that interesting aspect of how Eastern is playing Montana State. Their linebackers playing about 5 yards off the line of scrimmage and just flowing King Angle King, trying to be in his face as quickly as they can.
They sit them back that far to avoid the blocking more than anything else, right?
I think that's it, so they have a chance to get off the block.
Let them run free and cheat them up as time goes along if they need to, I suppose. Angle King once again. There's some good line play that time by the left tackle. Chris Scott beat his block. The young man who's the strongest player on the Eastern team. Squats 560 pounds. An honorable mention all-conference performer a year ago.
Angle King runs up in there, but there's really no place to go, Todd. The Eastern playing literally with the 2 deep there. If you want to really analyze it, it's almost a 9-man front. When you talk about the linebackers involved with run and the corners roll up.
Montana State in a 3rd and 4 situation now. Oscar Caballero at the bottom of your screen. Chip Hobbs to the inside of him. Eagles will go man, put some pressure. They'll try to look long for Hobbs and overthrow him. Covered that time by DePrice Kelly, the right cornerback. Also had some help from Aaron Woods at the strong safety spot. And Rob Compson not able to find his receivers. A flag as well on the play against Montana State. And we'll see what Mike Kramer elects to do here. I'm sure the way his offense has been clicking, he'd just as soon get the ball back right now.
I would think so. I would think so. Eastern versus Montana State slot went to a man coverage you identified.
Eagles will decline the holding call, and it'll be punt time once again for Montana State. Go ahead and finish that up.
No, I'm just going to say, Todd, they did go to man cover, put some pressure on Montana State, and really had a hard time getting the ball off. 2-man pattern.
That's right on Bragg's average. He's 38.5, and Perigo had a nice return the last time, back once again. Eagles with a little pressure that time. Perigo again signaling for the fair catch. Will take it at the 40. And another good start for the Eagles. Why they're shooting the cannon off on a fair catch, but I guess you celebrate everything here. We've gone to the end of the first quarter. Maybe that's why.
I guess so.
And we'll regain our senses and get our wits about us and be back with the second quarter from Cheney right after this timeout. And welcome back to Cheney as we get set to start the second quarter, and a new look at Eastern at quarterback as Griffin Garski will come on to take over for Harry Leons, who was injured on the last series. That one batted down. A good play once again by Morgan Harris, the outside linebacker for Montana State, and some of the numbers from the first quarter of play. Eastern with fairly good balance, and of course their rushing total hurt a little bit after the fumble, but Montana State, it's been almost all ground game done.
It's been all ground game to this point in time.
There's a look at Griffin Garski, has played sparingly so far this season in a relief role. His long pass, a 32-yarder, and there's Rex Prescott in the backfield for Eastern. And he fumbles the ball, still loose and on the turf, and who's on top of it? Montana State again. Well, the Eagles are just shooting themselves in the foot. Jeff Alexander came up with the ball, and another Eastern turnover.
Todd, this is a big turnover. He really didn't get the ball. It hit him somewhere in the midsection and bounced right out.
Well, you got your backup quarterback and your backup running back in on that exchange. That might explain part of it, huh?
It might, exactly. Nonetheless, Montana State's got great field position here. Here it is again. Hit him in the top of the numbers. A little high on the exchange.
Eastern's done real well in the turnover department during this season as Angle King gets the carry, but you see 2 turnovers for Eastern. Montana State recovering those fumbles. The Eagles were a +3 going into today, and they've kind of put themselves in the hole. They stopped that one long drive early, and now have given Montana State the ball in a pretty good position as Angle King will take it down to the 35. Bobcats will put Morgan down to the left. Little drop off for Morgan as he stepped back behind the line of scrimmage, took his eyes off the ball.
They surely did. You know, Todd, that was a little crossing route there against a man cover. You might define as a pick, as you see it here in the replay. Eastern didn't have any part of it. Actually, they broke the blocking pattern and was right there.
Interfered maybe with Kenyatta's concentration a little bit. But
should have, probably.
Just received word that Eastern quarterback Harry Leons is going to be out for the rest of the game with that knee injury. So he was able to come off the field under his own power, but the Eagles will hold him from there. And another third down try here for Montana State. Thompson again under some pressure. Oh boy, was he met solidly by Damian Caldwell. Good afternoon to you, Rob.
You know, here, Todd, Montana State releasing 3 guys upfield, all well covered, no place to go with the football.
Got a little pressure in front of him as he was looking to throw. And Caldwell woke up and greeted him. Steve Matson had a hand up as he was looking to the right side originally. Bragg on to punt once again. Try to pooch this one a little bit. Perigo watches it go over his head. Oh, it popped up perfectly, and the Bobcats are going to be able to down it. Down on top of the ball, Brent Millard for Montana State. And now the Eagles will be pinned deep in their own territory, and backup quarterback Griffin Garski will try to get things started for Eastern when we return to Cheney after this timeout. Welcome back to Cheney. As you see, no score here early in the second quarter of our contest. While we've got a quick second, I want to welcome all our viewers joining us on Fox Sports Arizona today, part of our Big Sky Conference Game of the Week audience. You're seeing right now 3 yards and cloud of dust type of game, and the Eastern Eagles now battled against the field and the Montana State defense with their number 2 quarterback in. Garski's going to go look for a receiver. No flag, good coverage that time on Steve Correa as he was picked up down the sideline by Jared Lucero.
Garski's got a good arm. He's a good passer, considered the better of the 2 passers. The tight end is open up the seam on this play. He just threw to the wideout. That was his choice.
Eastern took the ball, and as you see, the opening drive, very impressive. Well down inside the Montana State 20 when they fumbled the ball. Didn't get anything on the second, and then fumbled the ball with Garski coming in to run him on that 3rd offensive series. The missed exchange between Garski and Prescott. Eastern coach is very high on this young man. We'll talk a little bit more about him in just a second. Sewell on 2nd and 10. You got to be a little nervous giving the ball to your running back right now. You're Mike Kramer after a couple of fumbles, but Sewell takes it out close to the 10.
Again, that little counter that Eastern runs so effectively continues to wear on Montana State. I'm sure as the game goes on, those defensive linemen of Montana State's going to feel this.
Here a look at Griffin Garski, All Greater Spokane League performer at Meade High in Spokane. Originally signed a letter of intent with Utah State University and then got released and came back to Eastern, where his dad Scott was an All-American back in 1973. The quarterback of the future? Well, the future is now for the redshirt freshman, and on 3rd down he guns it to Tyson Knabelsrud for the 1st down.
Well, Todd, that wasn't exactly the same pattern, but the idea being the tight end is really open against that Montana State 2 deep. Big 1st down. Here's the throw here. Nice catch. Big kid. Physical tight end.
There on your left is Tyson. Right next to him is Lance, twin brothers, Sammamish High School in Bellevue, Washington. And they line up. That's the Knabelsrud side of the line now for Eastern. Eagles bring Mike Capoletti in to block for Sewell. Flag on the play at the line of scrimmage as Sewell is wrapped up in the backfield.
Todd, they have 2 people moving there, as you can see. At the same time, the fullback shifting and the man in motion from the slot position both moving at the same time, which is illegal.
Other Other Big Sky Conference action going today. Montana stepping out of the conference to take on Independent Southern Utah, and the Grizzlies on the board first. 7-0 in favor of Montana.
Play, 2 people moving at the snap on the offense. Penalties declined. Second down.
You see the signal from John Keys. The illegal shift was declined. And it'll be a 2nd and 10 now for the Eagles. They'll call it no gain for Sewell on that last play. Eastern running trips now to the right side, bottom of your screen. Little play action and a blown play there. Garski throwing deep. He may make something out of it after that. Antoine Miller, the nearest man to the ball. But Don, he looked out here to the right side, was ready to throw their ball, and all 3 receivers were headed elsewhere.
He did a nice job of getting away from his primary receiver to his secondary, and I don't know what he saw against that man cover, but he made a nice choice.
Watch his eyes right here.
Yes.
He's ready to throw right there, yes. And all 3 receivers were down the field to the left.
Yes. Maybe a mix-up in the call.
Either that or he's the greatest play actor and looking. That was a big look off if that's the case. But
and Montana State had good pressure on him too.
3rd and 10 for the Eagles now. And it just overthrows Antoine Miller as he was covered very closely by J.R. Davis. Tight coverage and a real tough throw that time, Don.
Well, it was. You know, Montana State set in a 2-deep zone with the man on the corners, and the inside receiver drug across the middle of the field, and it was tough.
Had a man coming out of the backfield, tried to get Prescott on a circle route. Zerflew on to kick once again. Montana State with Kenyatta Morgan back this time to return. First time he stepped back there. And the Eagles are going to get flagged for that play. It went off the helmet of an Eastern defender, so no matter what, it's not going to be Eastern's ball. They fall on it. LeVar McCleary is the man on top of the ball, but Jason Christensen completely mistimed his play. Kenyatta Morgan seems to be all right. He took a lick. I mean, the young man got hit before he even got near the ball, never mind interfering with the opportunity to make the catch.
And again, the end result of that play, Todd, of course, is what it's going to be, is a good field position again for Montana State.
There's a look at it, and you can see the ball hit right on the helmet of Jason Christensen. Morgan, good concentration. He took a pretty good pop from that young man as well. The scramble after the fumble, and here's the call.
Interference with the fair catch signal. 15-yard penalty over here. First down.
They'll take the ball into Eastern Territory, and it'll be a great start now for Montana State as they'll have it at the Eastern 46-yard line. Busy chasing the bees out of our open-air press box location here. And Jeff Tuss has come in now to quarterback the Montana State Bobcats after Thompson couldn't get him moving. So the bullpens are in early today, as we said. And Tuss hands to Angle King with a wall in front. Eastern strung that along very nicely, and finally making the initial shoestring tackle was DePrice Kelly, the right cornerback.
Well said, Todd. No question about it. That's that counter play. Actually, Montana State runs the same play that Eastern runs, and that was Montana State's version there, and Eastern defended it very well.
You see Jeff Tuss's numbers, young man who was 5-3 as a starter last year, a transfer from Fresno State University, originally from Capitol High in Helena. And here's what the Bobcats have done so far. You see no drive going over 20 yards, and they've had to give the ball away each time, even with the good field position in Eastern Territory last time. Little swing pass now, trying to find the tight end, and in traffic, Tony Baez, actually from the flanker spot, brought down for a loss of yardage. Good read by Stry, the middle linebacker, that time for Eastern.
Eastern is playing very emotional football. They've hurt themselves so many times, but they seem to rebound with their emotion as a big play occurs again here.
Well, Valles has just seen his yards per catch plummet. He had one catch for 51 yards prior to that grab, so that'll bring the numbers down in a hurry. And now Tuss is faced with a 3rd and long for the Bobcats. So they just try to pick up some of the yardage with that quick flip and were unsuccessful. They'll show 3 in the pattern, but Tuss will call for a timeout.
The 25-second clock was running down with 1 second left on it. Tuss did the wise thing.
9:58 to play in the 2nd quarter. Goose Eggs in Cheney. We'll have more Big Sky action live right after this timeout on Prime Sports. 3rd down play now for Montana State. Tuss looking long. Double coverage by Eastern. The catch wasn't made. No, he was out of bounds. Tony Valles attempting to pull it in, and he did a pretty good job just getting hold of the ball.
He sure did. Made a nice catch, and actually the throw wasn't that bad. Just carried him out of bounds. The other thing was, for the first time this ball game, Montana State gave themselves enough time with their pass protection to throw the football upfield.
Got the ball away from Ryan Moore, the left cornerback, but as you saw, Valles couldn't get his feet down in bounds, and once again, the Bobcats will be forced to punt. Perigo back deep for Eastern. Mark Bragg set to punt. Pins Perigo into the corner. He tight ropes and steps out of bounds. So Bragg's done a very good job with the short field the last couple times, Don, and just pooching it into a deep position for Eastern.
He's one of the best in the conference at placing the football, but he's also a very good athlete back there. He's dangerous. I always worry about him. If he get a bad snap, he can do something with it. He's an excellent punter.
Part of the crowd in Cheney, backing their Eagles. Well, you said going into this one, Don, it was going to be a low-scoring game, and yeah, so far the under is looking pretty good. We see the total yards so far in our first half. Eastern trying to get over the 100-yard mark, but Montana State really finding difficult. Just 1 yard passing so far for the Bobcats as Sewell takes it on 1st down, and he'll pick up 4 or 5 yards before he's brought down. Scott Matthews and Tyson Tucker, the 2 safeties, combining on the tackle for Montana State. And call it a gain of 5 for Sewell.
The thing about Eastern, they haven't really been stopped yet, Todd, by Montana State. They've been stopped by themselves, if you really want to analyze what's happening.
Joe Sewell off to a little bit of a slow start. Remember, though, there's about 13 yards of negative yardage in that figure as well after his fumble. Bobcats trying to realign a little bit before the count against the redshirt freshman. He'll get a 1st down and a little bit more as Garski completes to Steve Correa. I don't know about you, Don. I'd be afraid trying to catch that ball. That's on a rope.
Boy, he has an arm, doesn't he? He's impressive. Coach Kramer said that he is one fine passer and getting better, and it looks like it.
Big youngster with a strong arm, and Correa broke the initial tackle. Good coverage by the Bobcats to prevent him from getting much more as he turned upfield. Eagles leading in another statistical category, but as Don mentioned, their own turnovers have kept them off the board. From the 28-yard line, Sewell. Backers closed on him quickly that time as the front 4 for Montana State did a pretty good job of fending off the blockers that time. Neil Smith leading the tacklers. You see Scott Matthews there as well for the Bobcats.
The thing about Montana State is they're so well schooled and taught. You see how many hats on the football. They really rally to the football.
Kevin Lundstrom, the middle linebacker spot, also there. He's the fellow who came up with a couple of big stops on a 4th and goal and a 3rd and goal situation late in the game to preserve the win last week.
You bet, Todd. They don't come any better than that kid.
Going to be there for a while, too, as you see, the redshirt sophomore. Nothing like having somebody be the mainstay of your defense for about 3 years. Play action again. Garski looking for that sideline route again for Correa. Diving attempt. No. Juggled the ball, hit the ground. Jared Lucero on the coverage for Montana State.
Boy, you'd have to say a nice throw, a nice effort to catch the ball, and really good, solid coverage. Here's the play. Throwing off his back foot. Threw it right out in front. Makes a great effort. It must have hit the ground.
Take another look here. It looked as though he had it originally and then juggled perhaps on the way down.
Maybe he didn't
bounce
control
there.
it. Yeah.
We'll talk to Korea. Might have come down on the ball as well as they'll attend to him. Interesting footwork by Mr. Garski on that last pass, Don.
Yes, throwing off of one leg shows you the kind of arm he's got.
On third down, Sewell, they stretch the defense out. He picks up the first down and takes it out over the 40-yard line before he's brought down. A couple of Montana State defenders pounding the turf. A little upset as they weren't able to get him down. Lundstrom missed him and finally was brought down by Neil Smith. Take a look at the good blocking by Eastern.
Both their backside linemen pulling, getting blocks upfield, and Sewell cutting back. Nice run.
We saw Aaron Barfield, the left tackle, coming clear across and cleared the way. The 6'6", 290 senior, who was an honorable mention conference pick a year ago. Garski getting the play, and he'll step in once again. Gonna have to hurry things a little bit as they clock down to 1. Just got it off in time. Sewell found that little seam once again. He talked about it, Don. He really has a knack for being able to do that.
Boy, he kind of floats and then can accelerate. And as soon as he finds a soft spot, he goes north and south.
Tyson Tucker, Kevin Lundstrom on the stop for Montana State.
5, 2nd and 5.
Sewell leading that Eastern ground game as they've nearly doubled the Bobcats here in the first half. 3 out in the pattern again for Eastern, and Sewell to the right side. Boy, when your safety is coming up, as Tyson Tucker does, to make the tackle, you know that you're in for hurt.
You've got some problem. Yes. Kevin Peterson, the center for Eastern, is a quality player. Here's an example of that. Look at him upfield, leading, taking on a linebacker. Look at the position and the movement upfield. What a great block. He's an outstanding center.
Mike Kramer very high on him. He says he's got long arms, he moves his feet well, and he gets underneath his defender. And we saw all that on that play.
And especially blocking the open field like that. Boy, he takes an athlete. He is one.
You see the Eagles again eating time and gaining ground, but they haven't punched it in so far. Pressure, and boy, nowhere for Garski to go that time as the Bobcats blitz. He looked up and saw Neil Smith in his face, and before he could even move, Jess Buck, a backup defensive tackle, came in the other direction.
Well, a nice job, a very nice job on that play on the part of Montana State, smelling out what's going to happen. They got quick pressure on him, and they couldn't get the ball off. Nice pass rush.
But interesting, Don, the pressure from the front 4.
Yes. Oh, they bluffed him, though. They had 6 guys walked up and then pulled 2 out.
Found their gaps.
Here they are again in that 6-man look.
Sewell on the draw. Bounces off a free tackler. Got a downfield block from his receivers and is finally hauled down at the 25-yard line. Making the saving tackle was Jared Lucero. But Sewell did a great job as he bounced off of what looked to be a pretty sure tackle from Jason Sawicki, the defensive tackle.
Boy, I'll say, he knows where to run.
Got a flag down the field, Don, and Eastern's going to be called for a hold on the wide receiver coming up right here in a second.
Here's the hold right there, just before the tackle is made. That's going to really hurt Eastern.
Well, the flag's down at about the Montana State 29-yard line.
Holding on the offense. 10-yard penalty from the spot
Eastern
of the
Todd
foul.
continues to
replay 2nd down.
Eastern continues to struggle with hurting themselves one way or another. There's another example. They're in scoring position in the red area, and now they're back on the 39-yard line. But they're definitely moving the football.
Southern Utah on the board now against Montana. Well, that game going about the same time as ours, and the Grizz having a little bit of a challenge in the first half at home. That penalty for Eastern, 10 yards from the spot of the foul. So it'll give them a second and about 5, and now Garski will call timeout. Did he get time before the 25-second? Apparently so, as it was ready to expire. We'll step aside as well. Inside of 5 minutes to play in the first half. Scoreless contest coming your way from Cheney on the Big Sky. Game of the week. We return to Big Sky action now. A 2nd and 5 for Griffin Garski and the Eastern Eagles. Receiver falls down, still manages to get up and make the grab as Antoine Miller had started to lose his balance on the cut. He'll be close to first down yardage. Senior from Timberline High School in Lacey, Washington, and Walla Walla Community College picks up the first down.
He is a quality receiver, one of the better receivers on the Eastern roster, and certainly one of the really good receivers in the conference.
7th in the conference right now, and a good downfield blocker as well. Boy, look at those numbers, Don. What a difference per play between the two.
Oh boy, that tells it all.
Joe Mitchell in the lineup for Eastern at the top of your screen. Looking for Mitchell, and he headed one direction, the ball headed the other as Garski couldn't find him. Having Garski in really opens up another thing, Don. Mike Kramer not afraid to throw those deep out routes all of a sudden because the young man's got a gun.
I would bet if he wasn't in, they would not be throwing as much as they are. I think that's the reason.
Keeps Montana State off balance a little bit as well. You see Steve Correa coming in with the next play call for Garski. And from the Montana State 33-yard line, he'll bring him out 2nd and 10. Draw to Sewell. Skips it outside once again. Good play made by Morgan Harris coming off the block from the linebacker spot, and he leads the Bobcat tacklers.
Tell you what, Todd, Montana State really rallied to that play. 7 Montana State players rallied to get to the football.
Little hold inside, and you can see him spinning off the blocks, get us there. And the wide receiver trying to get on to Harris. Antoine Miller couldn't hold the block against the backer. Harris will check out of the lineup now on 3rd and long for Eastern. Garski looking for Correa, fades him down the sidelines and makes the grab at the 5-yard line. Nice touch, so you see the enthusiasm from the quarterback, but Don Correa really made this route possible because he held some space along the sideline and then faded.
Yes, he did. It was a well-thrown ball and a well-executed play on the part of the receiver, giving himself room. But the thing I would bring up here, Montana State in there too deep, but playing zone in the middle and man on the corners, really covered that play very, very well as you can cover it. It was just a great throw and catch.
Got behind Jared Lucero, took it down to the 5-yard line, and Griffin Garski with his first big play of the day has the Eagles in a 1st and goal situation. Mike Capoletti in as a blocking back for the Eagles. Sewell cuts it back inside, down to about the 1-yard line before he's pulled down. Jeff Alexander on the tackle for Montana State, along with the middle linebacker Kevin Lundstrom.
It amazes me, Todd, that they can pull the backside and get him in front of that running back Sewell like they do and have the effectiveness of that type of run down on the goal line. Amazing. They do a great job with it.
Sewell checking out now, and Rex Prescott will come in. You see Capoletti, the redshirt freshman, up in front of him as a blocking back. Dive by Garski. Still no signal. Looked as though he'd gotten well across the line of scrimmage to me, Don, but we get no call yet, and they're going to say he was stopped short. Well, they had a pretty good surge off that snap. I thought he was in.
They had a surge. They truly did.
So 3rd and goal, inches away from the goal line. 16th play of this drive coming up, and Sewell will come back in with the call from Mike Kramer.
It's going to be interesting to see.
They're going to signal the play in. Garski waiting for the signal, and now we'll see what they do as they're inside 10 on the play clock already. Little confusion as he waited for the play to be waved in. He'll dive. Touchdown. Took him a few seconds to make the call, but the Eagles finally get on the board in the closing 2 minutes of this first half of play. Griffin Garski engineering the drive.
Here's the touchdown, Todd. Again, nice surge by Eastern. Garski barely got in, but he did get in.
And interesting, it was the top official who made the call from that vantage point on the near sideline there. It looked as though it were pretty obvious, but it was the far side, top side official who made the call. Josh Atwood on to attempt the point after. Usually Leon's is the holder as well, so they had to find a backup holder in Jeff Ogden. He's able to get the ball down, and the Eagles add the point after touchdown. Eastern 7, Montana State nothing, as the Eagles pull off that drive, a 92-yard drive, 16 plays for the Eagles as they get on the board. Updating you on other action around the country, a big Big Ten showdown from the Horseshoe at Ohio State. In Columbus, they take on the Nittany Lions, and quarterback Stanley Jackson's having a big day so far for Ohio State as he has thrown for 2 touchdowns, and Ohio State leading Penn State 17-0 so far in a matchup of numbers 3 and 4 in the country. Yeah, that's us up on top of the press box here at Woodward Stadium in Cheney, where the Eagles have gotten their crowd juiced by getting on the board. And we talked about the defensive effort for Eastern as we look over on the Eagles sideline, and they've done a pretty good job, Don, of bottling up this Montana State attack as they did a year ago.
Well, what they're saying, in my opinion, looking at them the way in which they're playing, is we're going to stop your run, throwing it whenever you want, and so far they've had some success with that.
They gave up 139 yards last week against a pretty talented Portland State unit, and a year ago allowed Montana State just 94 yards of total offense in a 28-10 win in Bozeman, which was by far the largest margin of victory between these two teams in quite some time. 2 years ago here on Prime, we had a triple overtime game in Cheney between the schools, and it's always been a pretty close competitive matchup between Eastern Washington and Montana State. The Eagles right now, though, have a 5-game win streak as Atwood gets set to kick. Pooches it short, and a fair catch signal, and the ball dropped out of bounds, so a break there for Montana State, as it was a smart call by the up man Travis Wright, but then he lost the ball. It'll belong to the Bobcats out over their 20-yard line. As we said, a 92-yard drive, nearly 8 minutes off the clock, and Sewell responsible for 55 yards rushing in that drive. But the big play, of course, the pass to Steve Correa that took him down to the 5-yard line, Don.
Yes, their ability to mix the pass in with a run is certainly helping him.
Well, that'll give the young man a little bit more confidence as well, as the Bobcats will now try to see what they can do in the final 100 seconds or so of this first half. Jeff Tuss on again at quarterback. Angle King. And he'll get another good gain out over the 35 to pick up the first down before he's brought down. Stopped by Ed Harris, the right end. Bobcats mixed folks up a little bit on that one, Don.
They sure did. It looked to me like the way in which they spread their receivers and the stance of the lineman, there was going to be thrown, the ball going to be thrown, but obviously they did not.
I wasn't going to tell everybody you were signaling pass, but now if you brought it up. So. They'll put 3 out again and give it to Angle King. And just point of attack football right there.
Well, truly, you know, we're seeing some great running backs today. We really are. These are quality running backs. Angle King just makes things happen.
Well, now it'll be interesting to see what Cliff Eisel does. I mean, he has pretty good field position, but just a little over a minute to go, and eventually you've got to put the ball in the air again if you want to get on the board before half.
Well, you're fighting the clock at this time, and so whether or not they're content with going in this way or trying to make something happen, we'll wait and see here, I guess.
Yeah, the good thing, if you do force it, you don't give up a lot of time. A little delay for Angle King. No room that time as the red shirts closed on him quickly. It's going to bring up a 3rd down and about 4 for Montana State, so we'll see what they elect to do.
And they have 2 timeouts left, so they're not taking the timeouts.
Yeah, both teams have 2 left, and Eastern isn't doing it either. A little surprise there. They could have chosen to do that, especially after the first down play, but they're going to be content going into the locker room as well, it appears.
That's what it looks like at this point.
Barring a turnover or an incompleted pass, this will be our final play of the half. Their version of the knee, Angle King, be stopped short of the first down, and that will wrap up the first half of play unless the Eagles force a punt and go for the block, and there's no motion from Mike Kramer at all on the far sideline. We'll head to the locker room. The Eagles with a late second quarter drive. As you see, Eagle King slowly walking off the field. He's been kept in check by the Eastern defense. And the reserve quarterback Garski leads a 92-yard drive to put Eastern on the board. Halftime in Cheney. It's the Eagles 7, the Bobcats nothing. We'll return with more Big Sky Conference action after this timeout on Prime Sports. Cheney. Welcome back to Cheney. We're ready to kick off our second half of play as the officiating crew is met out at midfield. Teams heading off the fields and the bands beginning to walk off. Band day here in Cheney today, so they had a lot of the different high school bands. Ephrata, Oakesdale, Medical Lake, Lewis and Clark of Spokane, Meadowdale High School from Linwood, Riverside out of Chattaroy, Toppenish, and Ocosta High School from Westport, Washington. Some of the bands in attendance today on Band Day at Eastern Washington University, as the Eagles also had their inaugural class in their brand new Athletic Hall of Fame. Is Mike Kramer, who'd love to be in that hall someday. Saw a couple of his predecessors as head coach at Eastern Washington inducted today. And first and foremost, a guy who really is, I mean, what can you say about the contribution he made to Eastern Washington Athletics? Red Reese. I mean, the facility's only in his name, and a longtime coach and administrator here at Eastern Washington University. Jeff Groeschel, who has been invisible up until now, will kick off in the second half for Montana State. Joe Sewell is back deep for Eastern Washington as we get set to put this second half underway. Well, they must have a lot of spare shells today. That's all I can figure. Sewell taking it at the 5 and slowed and eventually brought down inside the 20. A good individual play for Montana State as Sewell looked as though he had a lane for a minute. We take a look at some of the numbers from the first half of play. And Don, two of the things that jumped out at you, I know, were the number of plays and the possession time for Eastern Washington.
You bet, Todd. And I'll tell you what, Eastern Washington had the ball 38 times. That's a lot of time, running off 17 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, so they certainly were a control offense.
And the other thing that jumps out at me, the next to last figure, 6 of 8 on third down for Eastern. Montana State unable to convert a third down in the first half.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Eastern's defense keeping them bottled up on the big third down plays, and Griffin Garski engineering one drive late in the half. Gets the Eagles started again with Sewell carrying it off the left side. Tyson Tucker bringing him down for Montana State.
What a fine tackle that was, too. Tucker's a tough kid.
Junior from Arley, Montana, an all-academic selection a year ago for Montana State. We've seen him make some one-on-one tackles here coming up in a hurry from his free safety spot today.
In the open field. He's a very aggressive football player.
Eagles will bring Jeff Olson to the top of your screen down at the bottom. Korea. There's a look at Sewell's first half. Again, remember he had a fumble for -13 in that total as well. Little play action, trying to get it, and successfully do to Antoine Miller out over the 30-yard line. Brought down by the free safety Tucker again, along with some help from Jared Lucero at the left corner.
Eastern continues to mix pass and run, and it's going to make them effective in the second half if they stay with that plan. Nice throw and a nice catch.
Picks up a first down for Eastern out at the 33-yard line. That's Miller in motion. Sewell. Well, the Bobcats got great penetration on both sides and then eventually bottled up the middle as Sewell literally had nowhere to run that time.
They rushed 6 that time, Todd, so they were really playing run all the way.
Devlin Geddes and Scott Matthews on the tackles. We watch again.
Eastern trying to run that counter play, and the penetration on the part of Montana State broke that play up.
Loss of a couple yards for Sewell on the play. They'll spot it at the 31-yard line. all day for Garski, throwing off that back foot again, and Korea can't break back to the ball in time. I know as a coach, you almost want to tell the youngster, step up and throw that. You would have had the ball to Korea.
Yes, you know, I don't know what he had in mind. Again, he looked away from where he was going to throw the football. If that's part of the scheme, I'm not sure. The other thing was play action pass, and I think he was trying to freeze the secondary. Certainly throwing off the back leg, though, you're correct.
A little bit of what coaches used to call happy feet. And he'll be faced with a 3rd and long now. 3rd and 12 to be exact at the 31. They made about a half yard on the incomplete pass, though. Spotted the ball a little bit ahead. 3 in the pattern. And they'll run the draw to Prescott. Broke a shoestring tackle, still won't get up to the first down, however. Secondary closed on him in time. Alexander there as well from the outside linebacker spot with Tyson Tucker, and the Eagles will be forced to punt.
Montana State changed up their defense that time to a 4-man front, just rush 4, and Eastern checked to that draw, I'm sure.
Zerflew on the punt. You saw Morgan, who's probably still looking for the license number of the truck. Back deep for the Bobcats. He got drilled, of course, that last time. Fair catch, and Morgan, with some free space this time, makes the grab. And the Bobcats will have it at the 32-yard line, and here's what they did in the first half, Don.
Again, struggling offensively to a degree, unable to have any success at all throwing the football. Montana State, though, by nature and by history, gets stronger in the second half. It's going to be interesting to see how they come along.
Well, their best series was the last one of the quarter when Eastern was playing back a little bit relaxed, and Anglo King scored it for 10+ on the first carry. But when 21-yard drive to close the half is your best, it's not been a good first half, and I know it's got to be frustrating for the Bobcats. Tuss stays in at quarterback. Valles is the man in motion. Tuss looking to find someone, and again breaks free. Eastern's secondary coverage has been outstanding, so Tuss scrambling close to first down yardage before being brought down by Jared Jeske.
Well, it was a heads-up play on the part of Tuss. Scramble there. Eastern with a 4-man rush. Tuss stepping up inside, seeing a little lane, tucks the ball away, runs upfield, and gets some nice yards. And big play, really, for Montana State.
And Montana State passing the first half was 2 for 6 for 1 yard. And Eastern has done a very good job. When the Bobcats have tried to look long, their receivers have been tightly covered throughout the game. Valles again, the motion man. Bobcats try to open it up again, float it for Valles. It's picked off. What a play by Perigo. Grabs the ball, gets the feet down, and Maurice Perigo, who had a couple of big interceptions already this season, including the game-winning 96-yarder against Boise State, has come up with his 3rd pick of the year. And let's see what momentum this might shift as we watch the play again.
You can't do it any better than that. What a play coming from the inside out, a one-handed catch and staying in bounds. What a great turnover in the part of Eastern Washington, and a play by that kid.
Perigo's already been named the Big Sky Defensive Player of the Week once for his efforts, and he may get the play of the week at least for that one, as he got the feet down and gives Eastern the ball at their own 43-yard line. First Bobcat turnover of the game as the Eagles survived their 2 first-half fumbles. Sewell takes it. Get about 3 before he's brought down the left side of the Montana State defensive line. Jason Sawicki, the left tackle, in on the stop, along with some assistance from Neil Smith at the left end position, and Tucker also up to support. Look at Griffin Garski. He was 4 for 10 in the first half passing for 61 yards. The long play, a 29-yarder to Korea, which took the ball down to the Montana State 5, and the Eagles were finally able to punch it in. Quick out behind the intended receiver, Gerald Jackson. Young man who really hasn't broken free much yet this year in Jackson.
No, I think as they throw the ball more, Eastern is going to be more and more effective. They change again formations by spreading the receivers just a little wider than they have been and isolating the defenders in the part of Montana State, and they're locked up man cover, and there's room to throw the football. So if they can get on target, the ball's going to go up and down the field a lot more frequently via the pass.
Garski now with a 3rd and long situation from his own 45. 3rd and 8 officially. Receiver fell down, picked off, and we're going the other way for the score. In for the touchdown, Omar Turner gets the gift, and Montana State is on the board as an unlucky situation for Garski. Turner able to waltz in for the Bobcats.
Talk about a big play, Todd. Talk about a big play. Turn of events. One interception leads to Eastern getting the ball. The other interception leads 6 points from Montana State. Garski turns, throws the ball. The receiver actually went down, slipped in the turf, I believe, and all that was there was just Montana State.
Yeah, I don't know how much you can really fault the young quarterback there, Don, because it looked like a timing pattern, step, drop, and go. Point after touchdown attempt is up and no good. Groeschel misses, and the Eagles are going to keep the lead as Jeff Groeschel hooked it left. So Eastern may survive this mistake as well. We watch the play one more time. Garski trying to recover after the pick, but Omar Turner gets Montana State on the board. However, it's Eastern leading the Bobcats by 1. We'll be back to Cheney after this timeout. Second team all-conference pick a year ago. Omar Turner's 3rd interception of the year has put Montana State back in the ball game. Senior from Duncanville, Texas. Jeff Groeschel will kick off for Montana State. Bobcats trailing by 1. You look at Sewell at the top of your screen. And Mike McKenzie back as well. The Eagles actually have 4 men back deep, 3 up in front to form a mini wedge for Sewell, and Sewell intended to be the receiver again. Short kick once again. Sewell trying to call everyone off it. He's not going to get a chance to get to the ball, however. And Eastern could get a big return here. This is Jimmy Lake with the ball into Montana State territory before he's brought down. That'll get you momentum back the other direction.
Boy, what a fine return that was. A huge gaping hole, some good blocking upfield, and they are excited.
Look at Mike Kramer over there slapping the young man's helmet.
They are excited. Eastern is excited. What a fine run here. He just look at the room he has to run. Makes a nice cut here to the sideline. Huge play on the part of Eastern special teams.
Sophomore from North Central High School in Spokane takes it inside the Montana State 39-yard line. And we'll see how Garski shakes off that last interception. This is Prescott into the lineup. That looked like a late hit, no call there, but boy, the whistles had gone for a long time. Fortunately, it wasn't a helmet into him. Scott Matthews coming in a bit late as we see Rex Prescott, a junior from Kennedy High in Seattle. 49 yards officially on the interception return for Omar Turner for the touchdown. Eagles will have the ball, as we said, now in a pretty good position to try to get things started. Talk a little bit about their running success against Montana State in a second. Prescott breaks a tackle in the backfield and is going to pick up the first down. Boy, good effort by Prescott as he broke free. And an advantage here too, Don, for Eastern. 2 quality backs to help run things.
They're able to rest him, unlike Montana State, who really works Ingle King play after play. Here's a nice cut.
Got away from Morgan Harris.
Again, a nice cut. Fine run. He slips on the turf where you got more.
Set up that last block as you get a look at Prescott. Interesting stat as well here in each of the last 6 years, as we see a big difference now in total yards. Eastern's had a running back go for at least 133 yards in a game against Montana State. Prescott did it 2 years ago. Sewell did it last year. And Prescott picks up the first down now inside the 30. Garski having to scramble again off the back foot for Correa. Pushes the DB. He was out of bounds, but that should have been a flag, Don. That was just as obvious a push as there ever was. And the official, to his credit, probably was watching the feet for the sideline.
Probably was watching the feet, exactly. Here's the throw again on the run, throwing off balance, but a nice throw, really, when you consider the situation.
What the hell were you watching?
Might have been push on part of both.
Oh, I think it was offensive pass interference.
Well, that's what I would have called. That's what I would have called.
He reached out, pushed away with both hands to try to create space. Was out of bounds anyway, as you could tell. The Eastern fans, I hope they were yelling about him being out of bounds and not about any possible flag, because if anyone, Korea initiated the contact there. Prescott wrapped up.
The thing that Eastern's doing, though, whether they complete the pass or not, the throwing is complementing the run back and forth, and they're getting more balance into the attack. And I think it's put a lot of pressure on Montana State because they've got to defend both.
Neil Smith making a big stop for Montana State, forces Eastern 3rd and long. Reminder again, want to welcome our fans down south, Fox Sports Arizona, joining us for our Big Sky Conference game of the week. We're live at Woodward Stadium in Cheney, Washington, and that's the Eastern Washington Eagles on your screen. Their redshirt freshman quarterback Griffin Garski coming on in relief of injured starter Harry Leons, and the Eagles lead it 7-6, as you see. On the scramble, tried to find his back and couldn't. Held a little bit long, and Prescott was covered. He'll get sacked. Jason Sawicki, Neil Smith making the stop for Montana State and Eastern. Big loss here, Don, because they might have had field goal range.
You bet. That is a huge play on the part of the Montana State defense. They had people coming from everywhere.
Watch again as they slide through. Smith through the left side, and then Sawicki first to him. So takes it all the way back to the 40. Zerflew on to punt. He'll try to roll one to the far side, looking for the coffin corner, and it will roll out of bounds for him. Let's see where they spot it, right at the 11-yard line. So a good job punting by Zerflew as well. Montana State will have the ball when we come back. 8:13 to play in our third quarter in a one-point ball game on the Big Sky Game of the Week. Damian Caldwell and the Eastern Washington defense will try to keep Montana State bottled up on their end of the field as we return to action midway through our third quarter. Eagles have to be very pleased with the defensive effort that they have put forward so far, Don. Just 68 yards of total offense for Montana State, and they're taking a long time down in the huddle here talking with their unit.
Well, they're playing very, very aggressive football, very emotional football, and they're a talented defensive football team. So this Eastern team, as we said earlier in the show, Todd, is vastly improved over a year ago. I mean, vastly improved, particularly on the defensive side of the ball.
We featured our ground games off the top of the telecast today, and both Sewell and Engelking have been very, very busy in our contest. Tuss getting some extra protection in the backfield, looking into double coverage. Perigo with another interception. That one was up for grabs the minute it left Tuss's hand, and Maurice Perigo with his second pick of the game. There was no way that the ball was ever going to get to Oscar Caballero.
I'll tell you what, that kid has instincts. He is where the ball is. He caught the ball at the high point. He read it all the way. He is an outstanding defensive back. We talked about him earlier in the show, and everything we said about him is literally true in every sense of the word. He's a safety. The fans out there should know, Todd, he's a safety making plays on the sideline. 2 interceptions made on the sideline. Perigo is what I'm talking about.
Right. Bobcats kept 3 men in the backfield to block that time for Tuss, yes. So there weren't a lot of options for him.
No.
Went up for grabs, and it's Eastern's ball at the 46-yard line. Second turnover of the game for Montana State, both on interceptions by Perigo, who just picked up his 4th of the year, and Prescott back in again, gaining positive yardage inside the Montana State 40 before he is brought down by Kevin Lundstrom. And there's a young man's name we have not called too often today, the middle linebacker Lundstrom, who leads them with 36 tackles.
That is true, and I think part of that, with that big Eastern front as they turn the corner and that counter, just get those backers walled off. They catch him up in the wash, and he's not making the plays that he'd like to make, I'm sure.
Prescott picking up 7. They'll call it 8, I guess, officially now. And he'll have the first down and more this time. Good backside tackle, really, on him by Ty O'Connor coming from the right tackle position, or Prescott might have been able to break even further.
The other thing that Montana State is doing is by putting the 6 guys across the front with the outside backers the way they are, they leave a lot of room in there for Lindstrom to cover A and B gaps on both sides of the center.
Big difference there, Don.
Oh my gosh, yes. They're definitely Eastern definitely controlling the field and the football.
They'll bring Mike Capoletti in there. You see him on the left edge of your screen. The up back, blocking back for Prescott on this first down. Brought down after a short gain, Jason Sawicki, the left tackle, making the stop. Northwestern taking on Michigan in a Big Ten showdown. Of course, the Wildcats losing a non-conference game early. We mentioned they were behind, and they pull off the game winner, 17-16 on the late field goal at home as they knock off the Michigan Wolverines once again.
Big win for them, you bet.
There's the secret from Miller to Garski. Again, as we mentioned, young man with 8 passing attempts before he came off the bench today. Second and long, that's Miller in motion. Prescott, nice cutback. He'll be down to the 25-yard line before he's brought down. Brent Millard making the tackle, backup linebacker for Montana State.
You know, earlier in the show, Todd, we talked about the area blocking. We talked about Washington State using a lot of that same kind of tactic. Anyway, the area blocking to the left that time, and Prescott actually moves back to the right, a gap to the right of the center, and makes good yards. So they don't always run where it's soft. It's where they see daylight.
Third and about 2.5 now for Eastern. Garski sprints up to the center, about 5 on the play clock. Prescott smacked initially, but he fights off on second effort and will be close to first down. And we see really from the first time Kevin Lundstrom making that play from the middle linebacker spot. He's starting to shoot into the gaps a little bit and trying to make the reads.
They're helping him some because when the ball's on the hash mark, they're taking the linebacker to the sideline, the short side of the field, and tandeming him, moving him behind, so that gives him some help. Nice play there, you bet. You see what I mean, Todd? In other words, instead of the 6-man front when they're in the middle of the field with both backers playing outside the defensive ends, they move the one linebacker behind when he's on the hash mark, so there's 2 linebackers active against the run when they're on the short side of the field.
But you know what I saw on that play as well, Don? Lundstrom had a shot at him, Devlin Geddes had a shot at him, and neither one of them was able to bring Prescott down. He's able to get away from tackles, and he got just enough to pick up the first down inside the 25-yard line.
Well, that's right, and I think it reflects not only a quality back as what you're indicating, I really believe that, but the use of 2 backs that the Eastern uses keeps them fresh, and both kids are so talented, it puts a lot of pressure on Montana State.
It's a first down just outside the 22-yard line. Capoletti in again, in front of Prescott. Great wall for him, and he just turns it up the field. Ball was down on the turf. Eagle fans, hearts going to throats once again. But they say that Prescott was down. And he had a real convoy this time, Don.
Boy, he did. He had a lot of red shirts out in front of him. He makes the right cut, turns up field, runs north and south. Right at this point here, gets tackled inside out. But he is a good back. You're right, John. He is really a good back.
Tyson Knabelsrud, the tight end, and Mike Capoletti, the fullback, out blocking in front. And they take it down to the 15-yard line, so call it a gain of 8 officially. And you see Prescott beginning to include his totals. And they may not get it one back over 133, but the 2 of them combined may total that much more for Eastern before this day is done. And the Eagles continue to eat a lot of clock with this attack. Prescott to the left side, same wall for him again, the tight end and the fullback, and he'll take it down to the 10-yard line, and another first down for the Eagles as Knabelsrud and Capoletti provide the escort.
Boy, they are moving the football, Todd. They are really moving the football.
Prescott out, Sewell in, and Knabelsrud shaken up. Now this is a critical spot for Eastern, Don, because they've already lost several key players there, and they just are getting Adam Keller back off of an injury, and he's about the only player they'll have remaining. Tyson Knabelsrud down, and while he's being attended to, we're going to take a timeout. Eastern leads Montana State 7-6. Back with more live Big Sky football action after this timeout. Back in Cheney, first and goal for the Eastern Eagles, just inside the 10-yard line. Sewell on, and he gets met in the backfield. Morgan Harris with the stop for Montana State.
Montana State had nice penetration there, and Eastern continues to run that counter, which you can understand why.
Jared Lucero, the cornerback, will come out for the Bobcats as we take a look again at the individual play by Harris. Sewell stays in. Eagles show 3 to the short side of the field. You see what they've done so far, working with the short field after the interception. Sewell down close to the 5-yard line, just kept the legs churning to pick up 2 or 3 more extra yards after he was tackled.
This will be a big play, Todd, because of course they at this point with a 7-6 to get breathing room. Here's the play again. Nice run by Sewell. Nice cut back again. They get good surge up front. The linemen and move. But this is a big play. Otherwise, it's a field goal, and field goal, of course, would help tremendously here. But they've got to get something out of this drive.
3rd and goal. You see the Eagles over 50% in their conversions so far today. They're in the short yardage package. That's Knavelsrud back in and in motion. Prescott in as well. They'll play action off of it. Knavelsrud wide open. No, that's not Knavelsrud. Sorry. That is Steve Matson, the defensive lineman who comes in as a backup tight end. And out of the double tights, Matson, who already has 1 reception this season, picks up another one. And so your starting defensive left end gets the touchdown catch. We take another look, Don.
Yep, play action pass, well conceived, had Montana State off balance. Wide open, completion, big play.
The junior from Naselle, Washington, down to the southwestern part of the state. Atwood on to attempt the extra point, and it's blocked. They can run it back. Good job there. Smart play to make sure he just falls on the ball, and that is the holder Ogden, who is again the backup holder. Usually it's Leon's the quarterback who holds, and smart play there as he prevents Montana State from doing any further damage. So both kicking games have suffered a little bit. You see hugs for the defensive lineman over on the far side as he's got points in the book. Here's one more look at the pass to Matson.
Nice fake, nice throw over the top. You know, Todd, on the extra point, the kick was very low. The kick was, here it is here, very low. See, it's blocked actually below the shoulder pads on or about the line of scrimmage. Very low kick.
Almost looked as though he hit one of his own linemen.
Yes,
with the kick.
It may well have been.
But a nice looking play action pass out of that double tight set.
That was a big extra point, though. They would have really, Eastern Washington, really been sitting well had they made that one. Now they're in a situation where Montana State can go for 2. This game can still, it's going to be a low-scoring game, it looks like, no doubt, but Montana State is still in it. Psychologically, that was a good thing for Montana State.
Steve Matson, they tell him keep your helmet on because you're going right back out where you normally belong, but he gets a touchdown reception. And he'll be back in his defensive end spot now. Atwood set to kick. Back deep for Montana State are Kenyatta Morgan and Oscar Caballero. And they'll kick it to Morgan, who loses his footing trying to get to the ball. Squirts loose. Caballero there to help pick it up. No, it's Morgan, and he'll be brought down inside the 10-yard line. Brian Gardner on the stop for Eastern Washington.
That was a big tackle, big play.
Just talking with Dave Cook, the sports information director from Eastern Washington. I say, was that Matson's first touchdown? He says, no, it's his 3rd this year. He's got 2 catches and an interception return for the TD.
Oh, gosh.
He's got 2 interceptions, so he's got some hands. Yeah, he got 2 catches on the offensive side of the TDs and 2 interceptions. So now Montana State having to try to struggle again. Compson back in, and Engelking gets wrapped up by Ed Harris.
Boy, Eastern is fired up. They are really fired up.
Derek Stry there as well. You see the middle linebacker, really the team leader on defense for the Eagles as we watch the red shirts in work.
Nice job.
There's a look at Harris from Steilacoom, Washington, an all-academic selection a year ago, junior defensive end. And we see the Bobcats go back to Compson here now, Don, as they're trying to find an answer.
Yes. Well, I'm glad to see that his knee is not serious.
Under some pressure, Stry missed him. Harris will wrap him up back at the 5-yard line. Also in on the stop, Chris Scott, the defensive tackle.
Well, I'll tell you what, Eastern is a very aggressive football team, and they're gaining momentum with every play, playing with great emotion. You know, Todd, here he is on that boot, that little waggle action, gets quick pressure, and then all kinds of red shirts all over him. I was going to make a comment about the number of kids from the state of Washington playing in this Eastern Washington. 14 starters are from the state of Washington, Todd.
Bobcats bring Morgan out. A little scramble by Eastern defensively as Hobbs is in with Caballero. Draw for Engel King, and after that last interception, that call doesn't surprise me at all. But Eastern does exactly what they wanted to do on defense, pin Montana State back deep.
They did, and the thing that was interesting about that play is Eastern had some kind of a misassignment or a blown cover, and they had no one on the top of the screen defensively to defend against the pass. They had 4 defensive backs on the right side of the field defensively.
They were all scrambling before the snap, that's for sure. Mark Bragg near his own end line. No pressure from the Eagles. They'll try to set up return. Perigo backpedaling a little bit at the 49. Has some room and plenty of shirts down the side. Good tackle there because he had a chance to possibly turn that one down the sideline for additional yardage. But you can hear the smack all the way up here as well. Combining on the stop, Jared Lucero along with Brent Millard for Montana State. But Eastern right back in business at the MSU 37-yard line. And the average starts for the Eagles here in the second half have kind of been on the blue and gold side of the ball. Lucero shaken up a little bit, holding a hamstring or a groin as he comes off the field and is now sitting down on the sideline. So the Bobcats are going to lose. There's a look at Lucero. They may be losing their starting cornerback as well. Well, we mentioned these two teams have had tight games over the past few years, and perhaps the tightest and most exciting came 2 years ago here in Cheney as the two teams went to triple overtime. They were tied at 21 in regulation. This is in the second overtime now, tied at 24. Eastern Washington, Todd Burnett to Tim Hunzinger, a 14-yard TD pass. Zerflew added the point after touchdown to make it 31-24. Montana State then rallied. Brock Spencer to T.T. Ryan, 24-yard touchdown. Jeff Grochel's kick made it 31-all, and we went on to the third overtime. That's where the Eastern Eagles came up with a big defensive stand as Brock Spencer, again looking to pass for Montana State, was picked off by Evan Brady. Brady tried to take it all the way. He was chased out of bounds, and it became Eastern's turn in the tiebreaker scenario. They drove a few yards, and then with Tom Zerflew on, took a good look and kicked the game winner. 34-31 triple overtime victory for Eastern Washington. That one happening 2 seasons ago. And as we mentioned, the games have been pretty tight with the exception of last year's 28-10 victory for Eastern. Prior to that, the 5 games between the two teams were decided by a total of 22 points. But the way Eastern's moving the ball right now here, as you see the remaining seconds in our third quarter, the Eagles may break this one open with another successful drive. And Don, the most important thing right now with it is that they've been able to eat an awful lot of clock time with those drives as well.
They've been dominant and getting more dominant in terms of ball control. They're playing awfully good football right now.
Prescott will be the running back as the Eagles come back out onto the field, and Griffin Garski leads them out. 4 wide receivers, 3 to the top of your screen in the pattern, and they'll send Prescott up the middle. Tried to stretch the Bobcats out a little bit. Montana State wasn't buying it. Morgan Harris leads the tacklers for Montana State. Also there on the stop, Jason Sawicki, and that'll end our third quarter of play in Cheney. The Eastern Washington Eagles on top of the Montana State Bobcats, 13-6. 15 minutes left on the board. We'll have it for you when we return to Cheney after this timeout on Prime Sports. They're wearing their red with pride in Cheney, Washington today as the Eagles lead it by 7 going to the fourth quarter of play. 2nd and 8 for Eastern as we open the fourth quarter. Garski in pressure with the play action. Through the hands of Knabelsrud and incomplete. Jeff Alexander covering for Montana State. And Knabelsrud, I guess that's just chagrin at missing the ball. He's back up.
Jeff Neal makes a big play there in forcing the throw, although the throw was very accurate. Could have been caught.
These are numbers from just the third quarter of play, and you see how frustrating a quarter it was for Montana State. Eastern Washington pretty steady. The Bobcats with just 1 passing yard in the game. Little swing pass for Prescott. He falls down, and he will lose about 5. And the Eagles will be forced to give it up once again. We've seen several players start to slip out on the field, Don.
You know, we've seen that in the ballgame. The field looks fast and dry, but they're definitely slipping. Maybe that's the type of cleat that the individual's using, but we've seen it with many players.
So Zerflu will come on to kick once again. And we'll see he's been able to put a couple down deep and pin Montana State in. Omar Turner back deep for the Bobcats. Low snap, fielded nicely by Zerflu, and gets it off the side of the foot. Still should work pretty well for him. And the Eagles will down it at about the 16-yard line. That'll kind of shake things up in the Pac-10 as well if that score continues. Engelking carrying the ball here on first down for Montana State. While we've got a quick second as well, we want to thank Cheney Medical Lake Cable. They have been the folks who have helped us provide highlights of the games from around the country to you today, and we want to thank them for their assistance in putting our satellite highlights package together on our Big Sky Game of the Week scoreboard. A little bit of a frustrating day for that unit. Engelking has done his job in carrying the load, but they haven't been able to have big enough package down the field.
And I think a lot of credit goes to that Eastern defense.
And we see again 3 in the backfield for the Bobcats, so they're bringing everybody home. Engelking being chased down, and he'll be stopped for literally no gain that time. There's the day it's been for Engelking. Again, he averages about 113 yards a game. And I wouldn't be surprised, to tell you the truth, Don, if he's just about responsible for all of their offense.
Well, he has carried the ball a bunch today.
Yeah, he's credited with now 74 yards of rushing, and they have 73 yards of total offense. So that does kind of sum it up right there.
He has been the offense.
Third down and about 3. Make it a short 4 now for the Bobcats. Little play action for Compson, trying to find Baez, finds him, and guess who? Perigo comes up for another big stop for no gain. And the Bobcats are bottled up again.
Todd, Eastern had great heat on Montana State, which I think helped that play because they could play the cover tight. Here's the play action pass with a waggle action, the quick throw, and here's the reaction of the defensive secondary and the part of Eastern making the play. Big play.
Got to be frustrating for Cliff Heisel too. I mean, you haven't been able to go long. It really limits what you're trying to do in a passing situation.
That's true.
Bragg on to punt again. Perigo back. That's a nice individual play for Montana State by Brian Archdale, a sophomore from Wolf Point, Montana, bringing Perigo down. And Perigo was an honorable mention performer at the return position a year ago, just to show you how important a play that was for the Bobcats. But the Eagles have the ball back. They lead it by 7 in the 4th quarter. Perigo says, hey, I almost had him, but close is not enough. More action after this timeout. Welcome you back to Woodward Stadium in Cheney, Washington. Montana State trying to come up with some answers right now as Cliff Heisel's troops trail Eastern Washington by a 13-6 score. Cliff still looking for his first win against Eastern. We talked about starting position. Look at the difference. Bobcats inside their 20, Eastern across midfield, and this is Prescott just about breaking free, and it takes a good effort by Neil Smith to come down and literally sit on him before he's finally wrapped up completely. Tyson Tucker helping in on the tackle all the way out to the 44-yard line, and 12 more yards for Rex Prescott.
I'll tell you what, Todd, Prescott's running just like it's the first play of the game. He is really a fine back and not winded, fresh. Eastern's looking better with every snap.
Eagles getting some balance now. 83 yards for Sewell and 68 more for Prescott. Miller in motion on first down. Prescott bounces off his blocker. And the white shirts will bring him down this time. Didn't have any help on the weak side. Brought down by Morgan Harris. Harris has played a pretty good game from his linebacker spot.
Well, he really has. Montana State's playing hard and playing well most of the time. They're playing a very good football team in this Eastern Washington bunch. You know, they have kept the tempo the way they wanted it. They've mixed the plays in. I can't emphasize enough how impressed I am with Eastern Washington today.
And Garski's been very effective coming off the bench to replace the injured Harry Leons.
Yes, he has been. He truly has. He's going to be a fine quarterback of the future for him.
Little quick drop, and he'll get snowed under. The short drops have not worked real well for him today. Montana State's been able to reach him fairly frequently. As they unpile, you can see Jeff Alexander underneath everybody along with Harris.
And that was a two-man pattern. I don't know what they had in mind. You can see it. You can see it here. Three-step drop. Looks to the wideout. Nothing there. Snowed under. On a three-step drop, the ball has to be thrown instantaneously as the foot hits. That's the reason for a three-step drop. You can't throw it upfield 30 yards, and he obviously didn't have a receiver open on his third step.
And we all know what happened the last time he threw off a three-step drop, too. So
We sure do.
3rd and 10 for Eastern. Prescott circling out of the backfield. Garski under pressure. Puts this one up for grabs. Correa behind everybody. It'll go for the score. An answered prayer for Griffin Garski.
Todd, you talk about an arm. That kid threw the ball off balance, almost falling down, and the ball literally was in the air 50 yards.
Correa makes the grab. His first touchdown reception of the year. This is Tyson Tucker giving up on a play a little bit, Don. I mean, he got fooled by the arm strength.
I'm sure of that. No question about it. No question about it. He saw the quarterback stumbling around instantly. Look at that.
5th catch of the day for Steve Correa for 123 yards and his first touchdown of the season. Atwood on to attempt the extra point. Gets this one up in the air. And Eastern pushes it out to a 2-touchdown lead as you take a look at the junior from Stanton, California, Steve Correa with the reception. Eastern leading Montana State 20-6. The reaction of quarterback Griffin Garski as he engineers another scoring drive. Back in Cheney, where Eastern leads Montana State by a score of 20-6, and sometimes this is what youth can do for you. Sometimes it goes the other direction, as we saw on the interception, but this is improvisation at its best, Don.
Boy, look at, he's almost on the ground, pulling off of one leg, running toward the sideline, throws the ball 50 yards on target. It didn't come any more impressive than that. That is a big.
When that one left his hand, I mean, I was going to wait and see which player coming over from which safety position was going to stand underneath it and make the interception. And all of a sudden, there goes Correa behind everybody. Big score as well. Gives them a 2-touchdown lead with less than 10 minutes to go against a team which has not put any offensive points on the board today. There's a look at the drive. The quickest one, of course, by far for the Eagles today. 57-yarder, the longest reception of the year for Correa. And Garski continuing to pad his totals. This one into the end zone, going to be brought out by Oscar Caballero. And he is going to be racked up. First man to get a hand on him was Britt Lentz. But he was swarmed under by a number of players for Eastern Washington. Mike Brown, Jeff Pilkington also there for the Eagles. And when it goes bad for the Montana State Bobcats.
11.5-yard line where the Bobcats take over first down.
Here's what Eastern is doing defensively against a team which admittedly doesn't like to throw the ball often, but still, right now, the Bobcats have a goose egg after they lost a yard on their last passing play. Eagles, at the rate at which they're going, may be able to force that further as Thompson stays on at quarterback. And the Bobcats will have to try to open up a bit. He'll find a pocket and get racked up at about the 15-yard line this time, met head-on by Jared Jeske, the freshman linebacker.
Eastern, Todd, playing with a 4-man rush, content to let coverage take its toll. In that case, it did, forcing Tuss to run.
Young man from Liberty High School, just outside Spokane, makes the tackle on the sophomore quarterback of Montana State. Jeske, another one of those strong players, benching over 400 pounds for the Eagles. There's the offense in the second half. Offense for one of the two teams, to be honest. Under pressure, Thompson gets away from two, throws for Engelking, tried to turn it upfield before he had the ball.
I'll tell you what, that is Thompson in there, and he did a nice job of scrambling, getting that ball off that time again, Todd.
Don, talking about Eastern and talking with Mike Kramer, we'll watch this play again and then to finish things up.
See, here's a nice job of avoiding pressure and dumping the ball off. That's a nice touch pass, but just didn't get caught at the point, but you can't blame that on the quarterback.
We talked with Mike Kramer about the difference between his team as opposed to a season ago. The experience is one thing. The other thing is we see how Montana State has been unsuccessful today, was talking about their strength. He says per man, they lift about 200 pounds more in the weight room than they did a season ago, and that's been a big key to their success. Thompson trying to convert one, looking, it's going to be close to, and Morgan scrambles to get the first down on individual effort. Yeah, he's got reason to celebrate. It's been a frustrating day for Kenyatta Morgan and the rest of the Bobcats. He pulls off the first down right here.
Great play. Here it is again. Stays on his feet, puts his hand down and gets the first down. You can't do any better than that. I was going to make a comment, Todd, on Eastern. Yes, their strength, yes, they're better. And the thing we've got to realize here, too, is Montana State is better. The indicator is last week's win over Idaho State. This is a better Montana State team. So Eastern is for real.
Right, against the team, as you mentioned, that beat a nationally ranked Big Sky foe a week ago. So a first down, a third down converted finally for the Bobcats. Thompson throws that one right through the hands of Tony Baez. Kind of sidearmed that one a little bit, but Baez should have pulled that in.
But again, Thompson steps up inside of the pressure and gets the ball off. A nice touch pass. You can't fault the quarterback in that play.
Yeah, the Eagles are going to come with their ears pinned back. And again, I think Baez was turning to look upfield before he put the ball safely away.
I'm sure you're right.
Bobcats just really trying to get something going. There's still plenty of time if they can put a good drive together. Better than 8 minutes left. Thompson trying to position players. Morgan calls for a timeout as there was some confusion about who was supposed to be on the line of scrimmage and who wasn't. The wide receivers were all motioning toward Morgan, and he called for a timeout. So Thompson will come off the field, and the Bobcats forced to use a timeout.
An interesting thing about that play, too, is Eastern, I'm sure, was in some kind of a mess-up on their coverage. Again, we saw that earlier. Eastern had their safety rotated over to the three-receiver side, along with the linebacker walked away and two other defenders. So they had 4 against 3, and yet Montana State called the timeout.
Cliff Heisel, you can see the frustration mounting there for the Bobcat head coach.
I'll tell you what, though, he's a good coach. Fundamentally, there's none better. He gets the kids ready to play. They play hard. He's not out of it. It's a tough uphill battle here, but they're not out of it. With 8 minutes to go, they just need to sustain a drive. This is a critical one right now.
Well, we've got a quick second before the next play. You look over at the Eastern sideline, and Mike Kramer gets you caught up on a couple scores here on this Saturday afternoon. Well, it was tight for a while, but the Grizzlies are breathing a little bit easier at home now as they lead Southern Utah in the third quarter. And the Pac-10 SC on the board now, and you see they got the 2-point conversion, so they're trying to make it a 3-score game. Bobcats go to a 3-wide receiver set, another one up for grabs. Battle for it, incomplete. Pass intended for Oscar Caballero, and Ryan Moore, the left cornerback, was in coverage for Eastern. He was trying to get a pick that time.
Well, Thompson again had pressure. He threw the ball, had to throw the ball a little higher than, release it a little sooner, throw the ball a little higher than he wanted to, and laid up there and allowed for the pass to be batted away.
Ryan Moore on the coverage here, a young man who was voted the most improved defensive player in the spring for Eastern Washington. And you see him with good position, tried to get the interception, but stayed in front of Caballero, the intended receiver. So once again, the Bobcats are facing a 3rd and long situation. Over the middle for Baez. He hangs on this time and picks up the first down at about the 37-yard line. Brought down by Stry, the middle linebacker. Nice job by Tony Baez after he dropped the short pass a moment ago.
That was a big play. That was a big play.
Baez wearing the blue socks.
The reason it was a big play is they need this drive. They need to sustain this drive to stay in the ball game. So that was a 3rd down situation. Big play.
DePrice Kelly, the initial stop that time for Eastern, and Stry coming over to help. But another first down for the Bobcats. Compson again stepping around. He stayed in there and finds Baez. Perigo will wrap him up at about the 45-yard line. Ball loose. Scramble for it. And it'll belong to Montana State.
That was an interesting play. Eastern content with coverage, dropping 7 people into coverage. Here's the play. But Compson moving his feet around real good, makes a nice throw here. Good read. Big play from Montana State again.
You see him hanging on to the ball. It did squirt loose, so they had a fumble but fell on it. Yeah, Compson's really hung in there, Don, and under some pressure. He's done a pretty good job throwing the ball. Angle King, the ball carrier, keeps his feet, breaks free. Perigo, the last man to beat, is going to haul him down with a saving touchdown inside the 20. There is Matt Angle King with second effort.
Absolutely. Had a chance to go down 2 or 3 times. He's a fine back.
The senior from Longmont, Colorado. We'll watch him in action again.
Little draw action here. We lose him in the picture here. He breaks into the open, caught from behind, and a big play by Perigo.
Grab something and hang on, and Perigo, who's been the defensive star with a pair of interceptions for Eastern, stops that one from going into the end zone for the time being. Compson looking on the fade route for Hobbs, incomplete. Coverage by Ryan Moore as he was on top of Chip Hobbs.
Tim Moore is he is an excellent corner, and Eastern put pressure on him that time with a 6-man rush. He had to throw the ball just a little sooner than he wanted to.
Compson with that incompletion. He'd completed his last 3 passes before that. Started the game 1 for 7. So if he can get things going, and as we mentioned before, there's still plenty of time for the Bobcats to get back into this ball game. Caballero comes out of the lineup now. Morgan in along with Hobbs for Montana State. Don's talked about time of possession, just a little short of 2 for 1 right now in favor of Eastern Washington. Again, Compson under pressure, lobbing, incomplete, all kinds of tangles. Morgan was tied up and went down with his defender at about the 5-yard line. And as you can see, Chip Hobbs is asking, why wasn't there a flag on the guy covering me?
Yes. Eastern is using the philosophy here inside the 20-yard line to rush 6 one way or another to force Compson to throw the ball a little sooner. Oh, that was a good, nice rhythm pass, just off target.
And you can see not a lot of contact there. DePrice Kelly on the coverage for the Eagles. Third and 10 now for Montana State. They keep 3 in the backfield again, looking for Hobbs. Just a corner route. He pushes and bumps and caught it for the score. Holy cow. What an adjustment. You see the Eagles are asking, what about interference? Ryan Moore was there on the coverage, and well, they may be a little bit lenient there, Don. The receivers are getting away with some pretty good bumps, and Chip Hobbs, a sophomore from Oklahoma City, with this catch.
It is a nice catch, and we're going to talk about this in just a second. Adjusting to the ball, nice job. But one of the things we'll talk about here in a minute that helped that play.
There's the hands. Look at him push and then tug the defender. He got underneath the ball nicely. Groeschel adds the extra point, but that was a pretty good use of the hands, it appeared, for Chip Hobbs, who picks up his first touchdown reception of the season.
I'll tell you what, Todd, though, anytime you got man-to-man coverage, it's just like pass protection. There's holding and pushing going on all the time. It's just if they see it and call it, that's what it amounts to. But I was going to say on that play, if you noticed, the fans out there might have noticed that Montana State lined up on a quick count, and I'm not sure that Eastern was ready to handle that, we call that a TD, or corner route, rhythm pass. I'm not sure they were ready to handle it because they had no rush on Compson at all.
The 5th catch of the season for Hobbs. And Cliff Heisel still has hands atop his head on the sideline. His team within 7 points once again. Well, the big play in that drive for Montana State was the run by Matt Engelking. He's had some other long runs so far this season for the Bobcats. And the biggest one came earlier this season in a non-conference game against Minnesota Duluth, when Engelking, watched the nice cutback on this play. It went for 83 yards for the touchdown against the Bulldogs. Engelking with 3 rushing touchdowns so far this season, and this by far the nicest of it, as he broke it back in the victory for Montana State, as they defeated Minnesota Duluth in that game by a 37-0 score at home on the 21st of September. Chip Hobbs the catch, his first touchdown reception of the year. Engelking with the rushing yardage on that drive. He's up to 112 yards rushing for the game now on 20 carries. Groeschel set to kick off. Sewell back deep for Eastern Washington, and again a short kick. Sewell calling for it, and again the up man steps in front of him before he can get it. Last time Jimmy Lake had a pretty good return. He's not as successful this time. Brought down on the play by Brent Millard. Here's what Eastern's pair of backs has done so far. 154 yards between the two of them on 37 carries.
Well, that's an impressive day. That is an impressive day.
Sewell would be close to 100 if he hadn't had that fumble. Here's another impressive note, Don. Montana State had 63 yards of total offense through 3 quarters. Their scoring drive, 88 yards of total offense.
Yep.
So they're beginning to click a little bit. Will it be too little too late? Can Eastern hang on to the ball for a while? We'll find out as Garski brings him out and Prescott takes the handoff. Again, it's up to the free safety, Ty Tucker, to come up and lead the tacklers, as Prescott had plenty of room to run in.
Eastern that time running out of a 2 tight end formation gave them a lot more option as to where to run the football.
Yeah, I think Mike Kramer right now won't be concerned about getting down the field so much as just maintaining ball possession.
Well, if it's a typical drive of his, he's going to use 5 minutes up in this drive. With 5 minutes and 57 seconds, Todd, it's a big factor.
As long as he can keep Garski from throwing another one of those bombs, right? There's a look at the Eastern head coach. Has his team off to their best start in 4 years. Looked like a jump on the left side that time. We've really been pretty penalty-free if you stop and think about it. I think that was David Andrus, the sophomore backup tackle, who got caught pulling that time.
In fact, I don't have the stat in front of me, but Montana State has literally not been penalized today.
There we take another look, and oh, it's 70 instead of 79. Apologies.
False start on the offense. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. Still second down.
John Keys on the call, and Aaron Barfield, the man who jumped.
Again, the play they were trying to run is that counter that they've run all day long.
Well, Don, you're right. The Bobcats are equal in the conference record for fewest penalty yards so far, and just 3 in the game between the two sides.
Yes, sir. Been a very, very well-played game.
From the 28-yard line, Prescott tried to find the seam. Good pursuit that time by Montana State. New man in making the tackle that time, Dylan Tripp former walk-on, coming up to make the stop.
Trip out of Big Sky High School in Missoula, who's a fine high school prospect there, a really good, tough football player.
A little bit more noise on the Montana State sideline now as they're trying to encourage your defense and trying to get the ball back, as Eastern will have to get it just short of the 36-yard line to pick up the first down. You see the success the Eagles have had so far today. Prescott tries to turn it upfield, and he's going to be stopped short. Flag thrown late on the play as well, as he was driven out of bounds by Scott Matthews.
Likely holding call here, Todd.
I agree with you, and you got it right on the button, Don.
The thing is, Montana State's probably going to, if that be the case, will probably refuse the penalty and force the kick.
Mike Kramer, a guy who's been on different staffs around this Big Sky Conference.
On the offense, penalty is declined, 4th down.
Going all the way back to some high school coaching days in Colton, Washington, out in the Southeast, and led them to a state high school football championship, was part of that staff. And the Eagles will bring Zerflu on to punt, and there's a lot more noise from the fans in blue down underneath us all of a sudden. Kenyatta Morgan back.
You can just feel momentum. I'm not saying completely changed, but it has changed to a degree right now. Montana State's back in this ballgame.
Put some pressure on Zerflu. He turns this one over nicely. Morgan backpedaling won't get to it. It'll be down at about the 13-yard line, and a 50-yard punt for Zerflu. There is a flag down, however. So let's hold here for just a second, as there's a flag on the far side of the field at the line of scrimmage, and I'm guessing somebody might have gone downfield early for Eastern.
I'd be guessing some form of holding on the part of Montana State, but I don't know when it's upfield like that.
Yeah, it's right over on the far side at the line of scrimmage. Offsides Montana State.
Offsides.
That will give Eastern a first down. Wow.
Oh boy, that's a big play.
How do you get offside on a punt unless it's one of your rushers? So let's. They're going to bring it back, and it'll be a first down for Eastern Washington. Here's the call.
Offside on the defense. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. First down.
Should we get it again?
Well, no indication there from John Keys whether they were lined up offside or whether it was one of the out men, but the flag was thrown way over on the sideline. You see Cliff Heisel's reaction, so I've got to think if the flag were thrown there that's where it happened.
I would think so too, and perhaps it was a lining up offsides, because we didn't see movement along the front anywhere.
No. Well, that is going to be an interesting call. First penalty against Montana State, and what will that do now with 4:05 left? How much more clock time is Eastern going to be able to eat? Just when it looked as though the Bobcats were going to get the ball back. Sewell back in, brought down close to the line of scrimmage, and again a swarming defensive effort for Montana State. Devlin Geddes is there for them, along with Scott Matthews.
Montana State playing run all the way now, knowing that Eastern's trying to use their clock up. They're going to run into an 8-man front, or what will become an 8-man front when the ball comes up.
Second and long. They tempted to run a play action here at all if they're going to pin their ears back and play run.
As long as it's a quick throwing type play action.
Pass, right.
Or a roll out away from some of the pressure. One of those two kinds of passes may well help them. Whether they want to put it in the air is the question.
Again, they're taking some time to signal the play in. Garski will bring them up with 7 on the play clock. They're certainly not lined up for a pass. They got the lead blocker in for Prescott. He's out over the 40. And a timeout being signaled, I think, is not at the first down, and timeout now finally called by Montana State with 3:09 left on the clock. We're going to step aside as well. The Bobcats will have 1 timeout left to work with, but Eastern will have the ball with a 3rd down and long when we come back to Cheney on the Big Sky Conference Game of the Week. Welcome back to Cheney, Washington, as we face a big play really for both of these units right now. A 3rd down and 7 to go for Eastern Washington. They need to get it past their own 48-yard line. And they spread the formation this time with 3 men in passing lanes and then give it to Prescott. And an arm tackle. Somebody got a piece of his jersey there at about the 45-yard line, and it'll make him come up short. I think that was Ty O'Connor who got the first contact with Prescott, and he'll be a couple of yards short.
This is the big play here, Todd, forcing the punt. Now, Montana State has been close on a couple of times on the punt rush. Well, it'll be interesting to see whether they try to block it or they try to get a return here.
Well, they'll get the ball back with a little less than 2.5 minutes to go and 1 timeout with which to work. All right, the outside guys are way off the line of scrimmage this time, so Zerflu set to kick. He's had a pretty good day. And he booms another one. Morgan backpedaling is going to try to run it back. I didn't see him signal, but he'll take the fair catch at the 5. And I don't think that's what you want your guy to do. You're back there, you let it sail, but Kenyatta Morgan made the play.
I did not think he was fair catching. We'll see.
Didn't see a signal from him. No, I'm with you, Donna. And we see 1 timeout left now for the Bobcats. 95 yards to travel. I guess make it 94 as they spot the ball at the 6 now.
Get the ball to their own 6-yard line. First down.
They were able to put together a very successful drive last time. Mike Kramer starting to pace a little bit, wants to see what his defensive unit can do here. Thompson in at quarterback again. From the end zone finds Valles. That's been his favorite receiver here during the last series of plays. They'll play a little bit hurry up as well. Perigo on the tackle. The Bobcats had at least a couple called in the huddle there, Don, and they'll bring it back out.
Yes, they're in a no-huddle situation using signals and numbers to indicate what play to run. That was a nice throw by Thompson.
And we see 3 wide receivers for Montana State again. A little quick out for Valles. Going to be met solidly that time, brought down short of the 20-yard line. Jimmy Lake in as the Eastern Eagles go to a little bit of a nickel package, and Lake makes the tackle that time for Eastern Washington.
The clock becomes obviously a big factor here with 1:48 with Montana having the ball on their own 17-yard line.
Valles able to get out of bounds and also pick up the first down, so Bobcats can take a little bit of time in the huddle now and call a couple. First down from their 18-yard line. Thompson has now hit 6 out of his last 8 passes. Looking a little bit longer, gets hit before he's able to release it. They really were looking for a long pattern that time, Don, and he got wrapped up. Damian Caldwell and Steve Matson do the damage for Eastern, and Thompson's going to call the timeout and use the last one right now.
That really hurts, and I'll tell you what, with the 3-man rush that Eastern's putting on Montana State, it really, if you can't complete the ball or at least get the ball off against a 3-man rush, you got problems. And I don't know what happened there in the pattern. They were going deep, like you said.
More football coming your way here on Prime Sports as we give you complete coverage. The Washington State Cougars traveling to Tucson to face the Arizona Wildcats. You can watch full game replay of that game tomorrow morning at 9 right here on Prime Sports. And the Washington Huskies at home facing the Stanford Cardinal. Action from that game comes your way tomorrow night at 8 o'clock on your home of Pac-10 action, Prime Sports. Don't forget live Pac-10 action later tonight. UCLA takes on Oregon. That game at 7:15 here on Prime. While we've got a quick moment as well, I want to thank the sports information directors for these 2 schools, Dave Cook of Eastern Washington and Bill Lamberty from Montana State University. And also our thanks once again to Cheney Medical Light Cable for their assistance in providing our satellite coverage of today's college football highlights from around the country. Thompson again under pressure, gets free, nice move, finds Valles. He's short of getting to the sideline, and in fact will actually lose a little bit of yardage. No, he'll gain a couple of yards rather on the play, but it'll be a 3rd down and about 12 for the Bobcats as the clock continues to run. Thompson checks the wristband as we head down to the 1-minute mark. Hobbs in the ball game now. Man who caught the touchdown. Thompson trying to find someone, and a diving attempt by the tight end Chad Mayer. Don, a good call. They haven't looked at the tight end at all today. A little better touch by Thompson, and that one goes for big yardage.
Threw the ball right in the hole. Eastern's in a zone playing, as you mentioned, a nickel package, and found a hole, threw the ball in there pretty well, and just didn't have success with the completion.
Had to throw it over the middle linebacker Stry, and then forced Mayer to have to turn around the opposite direction. And of course now the Bobcats with 1:02 left. Thompson saying, what, give me something. He's already down to 14 in the huddle, and they'll have to go for it now. A 4th down and 11. They need to get the ball over their own 28-yard line. Timeout called by Eastern. Interesting call by the Eagles.
I can understand it. It's such a big play. When you look at it, it's the ball game on this play. Why not think about it, make sure you got the right people in, the right coverage, the right, whatever they want to do. I think it's a pretty good call on the part of Kramer.
I agree. On the other hand, you saw the panic there a little bit in the Montana State huddle. They were scrambling just to get a play called. Wise move by Kramer in this defensive unit that's been solid for much of the afternoon. Will get a chance to really line things up. And they have come through in big plays so far this season. Against Boise State when they needed a big play, and they've got it. They've shown some different looks and alignments and been able to skies well on defense. Really, this is more rally the troops as you see Kramer kind of get there and whisper to Damian Caldwell a little bit, telling him what he wants to do.
I'm sure he's telling him, Todd, you're playing for all the marbles on this play. We got to do it right, guys. Let's think about the down and distance. Let's think about their formation. Let's think about their personnel. Let's communicate. He's going over all those things, and this is a critical time. You know, Montana State has battled back very well here, Todd. But boy, this Eastern football team, I think, is solid, and it's going to be an awfully good football team before the season's over.
They've really put on a good game today, and they were excited about having their televised appearance here from their home stadium. All right, the big 4th down play. Morgan down the far sideline against double coverage. They're going to put it up for grabs with him, and he can't get to it. No flag, no throw. Morgan asking for the appeal. The guy who was involved in the touchdown play, Ryan Moore, was on the coverage for Eastern Washington, and the Eagles will get the ball on downs at the Montana State 17-yard line.
Well, that was a desperation type play. You know, it's something you've got to do to try to make something happen. Good coverage on the part of Eastern. Of course, they've got 8 defensive backs defending against the Montana State offense with almost double cover on everybody.
Thompson getting some time to throw that time, but unsuccessful, trying to find Morgan and everybody in the Bobcat side of the line, hoping for some help from the officiating crew that time. As the Eagles get set to run out the clock, here's some updates for you. Montana now successfully putting away that game against Southern Utah. Ohio State, boy, there's a surprise. Far bigger blowout than anybody thought. You saw the game-winning field goal for Northwestern as they knock off Michigan once again. And the Big Ten race starting to look a little bit like Ohio State and the Dwarves, but then we've seen the Buckeyes stumble as they did a year ago against Michigan, which opened the door for Northwestern.
So we'll see who wins.
Now the Bobcats will make it 6 straight losses to Eastern Washington now. The Eagles will be 1-1 in the conference, as will the Bobcats. And it just leaves the door open for a lot of different teams here, Don, with a result like we have this afternoon. Garskiel dropped to the knee for the final time, and that'll do it. 4-1 for Mike Kramer. A good effort, a good rally by Montana State. But the Eagles, with a strong defensive effort, Kramer over to thank some of the fans in attendance on Band Day, and the Eagles pick up the win. I guess wins are worth double cannon shots, Don.
I guess so. They really, I can't say enough about this game. Hard fought, well played, low penalties, the way we thought it was going to come out, and as far as the nature and style of the two teams, it was an excellent football game to watch.
Well, I guess if he wins any more, they'll work up to the 21-gun salute eventually. But for now, it's a 4-1 start for the Eagles, and the guys continue to work on it. We'll be back to wrap things up from Woodward Stadium in Cheney. We're going to stay here instead, rather, as these two coaching staffs knowing each other real well, and they've had coaches. Of course, Kramer was on the Montana State staff at one point.
Yes, their style, their philosophies, very similar. recruiting practices, so on. Very, 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 very close. I'm impressed. I've said it 3 or 4 times. I'll say it again. I'm impressed with the Eastern football. They are so improved over last year. Todd, they are for real. There's no question about it. And I think Montana State's a scrappy football team, improved over a year ago.
Well, we're going to try to stay low here and out of cannon range as we get set to head out of Cheney. But a reminder that our next Big Sky Conference game of the week will be 3 weeks from today. And well, I'm going to have a tour guide to Missoula with me here. I'm looking forward to this visit as we get to see the Grizzlies for the first time this season. And what a matchup this is proving to be. Who knows what's going to happen in the next couple weeks of action. But right now, from this vantage point, Don, this is shaping up to be a big, big game between Montana and Northern Arizona. A reminder as well, coming up next here on Prime Sports, live action from the Big 12 as Oklahoma State visits Texas. But let's go back for a second to that next game, Northern Arizona and Montana. That could be a heck of a show. We may be there for hours.
You know, Montana won it by a field goal a year ago down in Flagstaff, and I'm sure it'll be the same kind of a ball game. Both talented teams, both veteran teams, both coach well. That's going to be an excellent football game, and like you say, Todd, it may well decide the championship.
Our Les Schwab players of the game, Joe Sewell and Rex Prescott. Well, the streak of big rushing games broken, but double duty for those two guys today, Don, as they combined for 175 yards.
Boy, 2 fine players, and they played well today. And though they had a little problem early turning the ball over, dumping it on the ground, they settled down, and they are excellent players, no question about it.
Eastern Washington with a 20-13 victory over Montana State. For Don Reed and our entire crew at Woodward Stadium in Cheney, I'm Todd Pickett. Till we greet you 3 weeks from now in Missoula. So long, everybody.